Paula sat down in my office 6 weeks after she started Zoloft, and she said something I've heard more times than I can count. It's working, she told me. The panic is finally gone. But so am I. She wasn't as anxious anymore. The chest tightness had eased. The 2 a.m. spiral had finally gone quiet. But she also wasn't feeling anything anymore. No excitement at her daughter's recital, no joy when something good happened. Just flat. And she was certain something was wrong with her. That she was broken in some new and frightening way. She wasn't. And if what Paula described sounds like your life right now, this video explains why. I'm Dr. Air, quadruple board certified psychiatrist. In the next few minutes, I will explain why a medication that is technically working can leave you feeling like a stranger to yourself, what that flatness really is, and why it is almost never the thing you're most afraid it is. First, let me take something off your shoulders. You're not ungrateful. The anxiety lifted. You know you should feel relieved, but you feel hollow and then guilty for not being grateful. That guilt is not a character flaw. You're not imagining it, and you're not the only one. Feeling flat on a medication that is supposed to be helping is one of the most common things people are too embarrassed to ever bring up with their doctor. So they sit with it in silence, quietly deciding that this numbness must just be who they are now. It isn't who you are. Let me show you what is going on inside your brain. Let's start with why the edge came off in the first place, because that part matters more than you will think. Zoloft is an SSRI. Its job is to leave more serotonin available between your brain cells by slowing down how fast that serotonin gets pulled back in. That reabsorbing process is called reuptake, and the medication blocks it. Zoloft also takes time to work, usually about 6 to 8 weeks to fully settle in, which is right about when Paula came back to see me. Here is the part most people are never told in plain language. More available serotonin turns down the volume on a small almond-shaped alarm center buried deep in your brain, the amygdala. The amygdala is your threat detector. In anxiety, it is firing too often and far too loud. Zoloft turns that alarm down. The panic and anxiety fade because the alarm finally stops screaming. For Paula, that relief was real, and she deserved it. This is the medication doing exactly what it was built to do. But here is where it gets interesting and where Paula's story takes its turn. The same dial that turns down fear does not only touch fear. The brain circuits that handle dread and those that handle joy are not in separate rooms. They overlap. They share wiring deep in a region called the limbic system. So when you turn down the volume far enough to quiet the lows, you often turn down the highs right along with them. That is what emotional blunting is. Not sadness, not the depression sneaking back. A kind of muffling of your whole emotional range, the bad and the good at the same time. And it is not rare. Somewhere between 40 and 60% of people on these medications report some version of it. About a third of them say it is one of the reasons they start wanting to come off. So when Paula told me she felt nothing at her daughter's recital, she was not relapsing. Her alarm had simply been turned down so far that it muffled the music too. And once you know to look for it, you start to notice it everywhere. The hug from your kid that should land but doesn't quite reach you. The sunsets you register but do not feel. The song that used to move you now playing quietly in the background. None of that is you turning cold. It is the volume turned down too far. And this was never the goal of the medication. But as you know, medications have side effects. Zoloft can change the signal. It can turn down the alarm, but it cannot go back and retrain the nervous system that got stuck in that high alert state in the first place. That retraining, calming an overloaded system at the root so it stops living in threat mode, is exactly what my program, the Nervous System Reset, was built for. The link is in the description below. It is important to know that lowering the alarm and healing the nervous system underneath are two completely different jobs. Now, the part almost no one explains. That flat feeling usually gets misread, and it gets misread in 3 very specific ways. The first is that people think the depression is creeping back. The second is that they assume they must need a higher dose to feel like themselves again. That second one matters because the flatness can sometimes be tied to the dose itself, which is a question for your prescriber. The third and the saddest one is that they decide this is simply who they are now. Most of the time, it is none of those three. It is a known, named, often reversible effect of the medication itself. Something that can be talked through and adjusted, always with your prescriber, never on your own. And I want to be careful here because I know how this can sound. This is not me telling you Zoloft does not work. It does. The largest review we have, 522 separate trials, and more than 100,000 people found these medicines clearly beat a placebo, a sugar pill, with nothing in it. The old story that anxiety and depression are simply a chemical imbalance, a tank of serotonin running low, turned out to be far too simple. But too simple is not the same as useless. So this was never about whether the medication works. It is about understanding the trade-off, so the choice you make is a clear one instead of a frightened one. And before the comment section fills up with people saying Zoloft saved their life, let me say this as plainly as I can. I believe you. I prescribe Zoloft. For many people, it is the right tool, and the trade-off is worth it. This video is not an argument against medication. It is an argument for understanding it. Now, here's the honest part, the part I will not soften. For some of you, staying on the medication is still the right call, flatness and all, at least for now. That is a real choice, not a failure. And if you've been carrying this numbness for years, just hearing it named today does not undo it overnight. I won't pretend it does. But naming it is where it starts. You cannot fix what you don't know. In many cases, lowering the dose or switching to a different medication takes care of the emotional blunting. Here is what I really need you to always remember. You're not broken, and you're not numb forever. You're someone whose alarm got turned down so far that it muffled everything else along with it. The joy, the tears, the color in an ordinary day. A muffled signal is not a lost one. It is still there underneath, waiting. It can be turned back up. The version of you that laughs without planning to, that tears up at the recital, that feels the small good things again, that person is not gone. She's turned down, not erased. Paula told me the hardest part was never the anxiety. It was that the thing that quieted the anxiety also quieted her. The flatness, the not quite herself feeling she could not explain to anyone. She thought she was the only one. She wasn't. And it isn't a side story. It is one of the most common reasons people quietly walk away from these medications. Emotional blunting is real and has a mechanism behind it. In many cases, switching to a different SSRI or SNRI corrects this. The next video discusses another SSRI that could be an option for you.